Hey folks, welcome to the Freakopolis Times, our podcast mostly about stuff related to our comics and game shop, the Freakopolis Geekery. We're Ian, Tyler, and Troy, and we run the shop and talk to people all the time, just like in this podcast. Join us and some occasional guests as we talk comics, games, pop culture, and just about anything else that pops up. Remember, while some of our topics may get a little geeky, they change up pretty often, so hang in there and maybe the next one will be more your style. By the way, this podcast is video enhanced on YouTube and Spotify. Check it out that way if you like visuals with your talk. You never know what might show up. Now, let's do the show.
No, okay.
What do they call this? They call it D23. Why do they call it D23?
I don't know.
D23, it's a Disney thing.
That'd be a hard die to throw.
Disney 2023.
Okay, Disney 2023. That's why it's D23.
That's interesting, though. Why are they a year ahead of us?
Because it's
That's the
what's
stuff
going to be
that's
coming out.
that they're going to come out with.
Well,
And they announced a lot of stuff.
They did.
And
Some
some
cool
of it
stuff.
you guys are interested in, some of it you feel is a waste of time.
I feel like it should be Disney's 2022 showing of shows that are coming up in 2023.
Well, for whatever reason, they call it D23 Expo.
Uh-huh.
And it's when they show up and all the actors show up and they all pitch these films and they all try to get it to be
Impress the
hyped up and
judges.
exciting. Yeah.
Well, blasé to them, because half their stuff might be exciting. Let's see.
Yeah, there was some things that were really cool sounding. Tales of the Jedi and Daredevil were the two that sort of really caught our interest, I think.
Yeah, no doubt. Tales of the Jedi being a new 3D animated series in Clone Wars. Also, of course, set in the Star Wars IP, being of the same vein, even a similar style, it seems, though this might be a little more sleek and modern, was a exemplary piece of Star Wars / animation media. So hopefully this manages to live up to that legacy.
Absolutely. A young Count Dooku, Mace Windu.
Well, that's pretty cool.
It would be awesome.
There's
yeah.
room to tell some stories with those characters, for sure. We only really saw them right before they died.
And I've always been a huge Clone Wars fan. Any animation in a tune with that is sort of a instant win in my books, at least.
Yeah, I feel like that stuff has served Star Wars quite well. They're able to tell some stories that are, though, tied in with the Skywalker saga, as everything must apparently be, but still, really zooming in on a particular squadron of clones, or Ahsoka and her journey, real character moments and stuff, which Star Wars often is sorely lacking. So it will be cool to see the potential there. And they mentioned that the creative teams on these shows grew up watching the Clone Wars, which is a weird feeling to hear that, for sure. But also, if they're as inspired as those creators once were, then it can only do good things, I feel.
Absolutely. And then Daredevil Born Again.
With Charlie Cox!
With Charlie Cox back at it.
Yeah, we got a little taste of that in Spider-Man No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
He appeared, and
awesome.
it was Peter Parker's public defender. Yeah.
And the return of Vincent D'Onofrio
Yes.
as Kingpin.
He really knocked it out of the park with that role in the first go, yeah.
I think he's wearing an eye patch or something, too,
Ah.
in this.
Oh,
so
boy.
you got the blind hero and the half-blind villain.
I doubt he's none too happy about that.
Do you think he'll get half of Daredevil's powers?
Daredevil would be in trouble.
I
if that
hope
was the
not.
case.
Yeah, right. That would suck. Kingpin is weirdly often shown to be physically intimidating. He's even gotten some punches in on Spider-Man, which sounds freaking ridiculous because Spider-Man is way leagues above Kingpin.
Mm-hmm.
But if he had some of Daredevil's agility with that huge rotund body,
He'd be like a juggernaut.
him versus Juggernaut would be something I'd like to
want to see that fight. That isn't all from D23.
Mm-hmm.
There's a bunch of other stuff. Mandalorian Season 3.
Right.
even though he's no longer Mandalorian.
Yes, he's forsaken his Mandalorian ways. But that's Pedro Pascal, of course, also playing Joel for HBO's The Last of Us. He's the front man for so many huge shows now. The dude is
Real action movie hero.
a prolific actor, yeah.
It looks like they're busting out a lot more Mandalorians, too. Like, there's whole teams and squads of Mandalorians.
They like it would. You know, you still get a little bit of that effect of small casts and small amounts of extras in comparison to the productions of like 2015 through to COVID. There was a moment where it was like, oh my god, there's like 10,000 freaking people on screen at once. Or the Battle of the Bastards in Game of Thrones, per se. You know, there was like legitimately 5,000 people there on that set. They couldn't pull that stuff anymore, of course, because putting so many people together on one place during COVID was not a good idea. But now that we are generally past such things,
We're seeing the return?
Yeah, there might be some much wider scale and really epic, huge numbers of people on the screen at once yet again, which I would be super pumped for.
Yeah, that would be awesome to see.
Mm-hmm.
Not only The Mandalorian, but Avatar. Avatar 4 is being filmed.
So, Avatar: The Way of Water, the second Avatar movie, in the Pandora, the blue cat
World.
people, weirdly described in the script. Have you ever seen that?
I think so.
Cameron likes the look of those cat people, the way he describes them.
Oh God.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. You should give that a little look up. But anyway, The Way of Water coming up, and they've supposedly pioneered some really crazy ways to do underwater CG and stuff for this. It's supposed to be visually crazy, just like the first one.
Mm-hmm.
And what, Avatar 3 is already in the can? And Avatar 4 is being filmed. They're convinced this is going to be a really profitable running series of movies.
Yet they waited 10 years to start cashing in on it after the original.
It's long been known that, they had a whole series of scripts already written. The production was ongoing, but often in hiatus. And now finally, the second one's coming out. But is it too late? And is there actually a fan base? I don't think anyone could tell me, was it Jake Sully is the name of the main dude, right?
Probably.
Do you know anyone else? Any other proper nouns?
Yondu? No.
Yondu! Yondu looks like he should
Exactly, yeah. But no, absolutely not. That was the one movie, it came out, it was awesome, highest grossing film in the world, and that's what we remembered as.
yeah, that's crazy. I mean, no, certainly it had some CG elements that were far ahead of their time. And still today, I would like to see more video games and movies manage to replicate that degree of fidelity in their visuals. But I'm sure this will set a new bar as well. And will that be the only thing it accomplishes? We'll wait and see.
I think they're going to have a hard time doing a bunch of CG that's far ahead of its time at this point.
Right, yeah. Everyone seems to be taking leaps and bounds.
Yeah, I mean, CG is sort of available. They can do human characters that you can't tell from actors at this point. So,
yeah, for sure. Look at some of those Unreal 5 demos and stuff with their metahumans.
Right.
They can spawn 6 million humans in 5 seconds, and each of them are relatively convincing, or if you zoom in on them and watch them speak, very, very convincing.
Wow.
So, with that kind of technology at hand and readily available to even small production houses, you have to wonder what they might have focused on to make this stand out like the first one did. Or if they can't pull that off, will it stand on its own merit,
I watched a bunch of the trailers involved in D23, and one of the things that I felt about them all was, wow, they all seem very similar. The ones for Willow, which is coming out, we can talk a little bit about, but the ones for Andor, the
Star Wars,
the prequel to Rogue One, essentially 5 years prior to Rogue One, so kind of designed to show the backstory of the characters in Rogue One, which That's always an interesting thing to me, which is like, let's show like how they die.
Yes.
And then go back and show how they all
lived.
Yeah.
You know, I feel like there's merit to that because it does show that if a story is good, then it can be its own self-contained thing. And even if you know the ultimate fates of these people is to die heroically, that doesn't necessarily mean that it discounts other stories that can be told with them. And I like that kind of concept, but I feel like Rogue One was really excellent as its own single standing thing, and now they're going to be expanding on it.
I think a lot of people liked those characters an awful lot.
They were pretty cool.
but my bigger point being was that all of those trailers seemed, I don't know, they shared...
They're Disney.
Yeah. You know, it's always this group of people in some, I don't know, dirty, dusty environments up against challenges so much greater than they are. It's, you know,
trailers have often had waves of kind of influence, though, where, you know, there was the time in the early 2010s and whatnot where pretty much like every trailer was a in a world.
Yeah.
You know? Like, yeah.
Well, it's funny though that they all have the sort of the same color tones. It was all browns and and sort of muted greens and stuff, and even I guess to the new Indiana Jones movie, Indy 5 is coming out, and it was again, you know, sort of, you know, beat the dust off your old leather jacket when you walk inside or whatever. And
the only thing that Disney could make more use of than the Star Wars sets for Tatooine and stuff in, you know, Mandalorian and in Boba Fett and in Obi-Wan and all over the place. The only thing that they could use more than that is Harrison Ford.
Right. Which is why Indiana Jones 5 will be coming out.
He is as dusty and reused as those sets are.
We love him, though.
No, I mean, he's a great actor. He's done a bunch of great roles, but it feels like over like the past 5 years, everything he's brought in for, Blade Runner, the earlier Indiana Jones, Crystal Skull, the Star Wars movies, right? Yeah. All of it is just to be like, gaze upon old Harrison Ford. Like,
see how grumpy he is to be here.
Remember nostalgia about his older roles, and here he still is somehow alive.
I know, and for somebody so grumpy, like he was in tears showing the trailer.
I'm sure.
D23. He was breaking down. He could barely. He said it was a very human story, and he was having a breakdown. I think he was probably having a breakdown, thinking, "Well, this is the last time he's going to be up there talking about being in an Indiana Jones movie."
No doubt, right? Yeah, of that degree. But I do, you know, I hope the best for sure. I'm not trying to crap on any of these movies or productions or anything. I do honestly. I'm not that harsh a critic. I hope they're really good.
Exactly.
You guys didn't sound all that interested in Willow.
Never heard of it.
Making its return after
31 years?
Probably, yeah.
Something like that.
Probably like 30 years or something, yeah.
It's even a little bit before my time, I believe. I don't particularly recall too much of it, but it's tapping into some fantastical nostalgia and bringing it to beautiful live action, I'm sure.
Yeah, and it's going to be instead of a movie, it's going to be a Disney Plus series, sort of a bingeable thing.
That's cool.
It's a new thing. They've got a new, you know, set of stories that they want to tell. Of course, it does not have Val Kilmer. In his role of Mad Mardigan. I don't know, he was like a warrior.
Yeah.
And he was really cool, and he's kind of what made the movie. So now we're going to get a
series.
A bingeable series without Mad Mardigan. I don't know.
I don't know who he is or what he contributed, but it sounds like it's missing him.
You're not familiar with Val Kilmer either?
Might ring a bell.
Your sentiment is exactly the same thing people say about Tom Bombadil.
What? That's
don't
a
know
different
who
story.
he is or what he does, but I feel like he's missing.
Yep, from the Lord of the Rings, that's for sure. There's also Ant-Man and Wasp out there doing things.
Yeah, you know,
and Ironheart.
Paul Rudd.
Paul Rudd, yeah.
Yeah.
He's freaking great for that role, no denying it.
Yeah.
Almost all of those movies have been well produced and funny and easy to just wrap your mind around. Exactly what you want from Marvel, pretty much. And so I'm hoping that this continues the streak for sure. They make a good duo.
Yeah, Paul Rudd is such a easygoing actor. You know, it was a perfect choice for Ant-Man because he doesn't take himself too seriously.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And Ant-Man's just a kind of a funny concept of a character anyway. And they do a great job with all the various quantum realm craziness. So hoping to see more of that.
He is, though, although, I mean, it was sort of detached from the comics because Ant-Man in the comics was
an Avenger.
Yeah, was Hank Pym. He was more a scientist.
He made Ultron.
Yeah.
In the comics, he has a much different angle for sure.
Yeah.
Hoping the best there, of course, too. Don't know if I'll catch that one in theaters, but I probably will inevitably.
Exactly.
Anything else that was standing out? There's Ironheart. Yeah, that's a production, I guess.
We don't know much about it yet.
There's not really. She hasn't had all that much time existing as a character, you know?
Yeah, it's interesting that they did that. I guess they felt like they needed an armored character
that could be
on the screen.
Yeah, that's badass. And Riri Williams is really cool and representative for a wide demographic of people who want to see more black folks in Marvel. So that's cool with me. Like, make it happen for sure.
Yeah, and she's a young woman, so another young woman character. That
works well.
I'm sure it's going to be good for their overall universe. I don't know how interesting the character is on their own, but we'll see.
The influence of Tony Stark on that character is seemingly pretty big, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess she saw the armor and she's supposedly, a engineering savant.
Yeah.
Right. And she saw Iron Man's armor and said she wanted to make something like that, but better.
Yes.
That's
tough to pull off. In the MCU, they essentially went with the extremist plotline and Iron Man's armor was, nanite technology and stuff. It was self-repairing and could appear like from a wristwatch and stuff.
Right.
By its final renditions, it was like godlike material.
Sword and shield or minigun.
But she wants it, but better.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking is, what can she do?
Yeah.
Like, what upgrades are left to be made?
I guess we'll get to see it. It's going to be quantum.
Thing is, though, I do wonder if they will continue to feed into Iron Man's legacy in the MCU and his continuous kind of reverberations of his death at the end of Endgame.
Yes.
Yeah, which I don't know if I've ever seen a fictional character within an ongoing IP have so much influence post-death. For many productions, a lot of people have been like, if only Tony was here, man.
So, and the only one that I know of that we didn't talk about that took place at D23 was Jude Law was there to talk about Skeleton Crew. Skeleton Crew is apparently about a group of kids who get lost in the Star Wars galaxy set in the New Republic.
That would be interesting to see. I don't know. That seems just
live
vague
action?
enough.
As far as I can tell, yeah, it's a live action thing. I don't know if it's in any way associated with the Clone Wars stuff or not.
Probably not.
Yeah, it sounds like a standalone thing, but
yeah, I don't know too much about it, but they did talk about it, and it was well received anyways, but people loved seeing Jude Law there, so that was part of it, I'm sure.
There's also Werewolves by Night.
Yeah, Werewolves by Night.
Which I didn't think of an avenue for them to tap into so readily.
Werewolf
by Night. Yeah. But, I mean, hey, classic monsters are still fun. Like, you can do cool stuff with them, so...
It's really a Halloween special. It's supposed to air on October 8th.
Okay.
They've made a spooky teaser that definitely looks like old horror movies and plays to a lot of old horror movie tropes. It's all in black and white. I don't know that the actual program is all in black and white,
right?
But the trailer was. So they're kind of all over the place. They got a lot of productions going on. a lot of Star Wars, a lot of Marvel, and then a lot of ancillary stuff. Ancillary like Avatar and those sorts of things.
Yeah, and references to further out stuff like Fantastic Four. At least seeing a lot of tweets from those creators. They're like, "Oh, nothing to show today."
Yeah, nothing. John Favreau says nothing to say about the FF at this point.
And yeah, he's obviously pumped for it.
I think so, although he was totally closed-lipped about it. So
wow.
Can't count on any Fantastic Four showings.
Well, you know how Marvel is with their movies.
You know how we are, dear audience, just waiting for the day that they actually get their shining moment.
That'll be quite the episode. We'll be popping champagne bottles. This is sort of not associated with D23 at all, but it is an animated anime that will be coming out here, and I know you're super hyped for it, Ian.
Mm-hmm.
Cyberpunk's Edge Runners.
Yeah, that's coming out on Netflix, I think, at midnight tonight. They're going to be dropping the whole season. Produced by Studio Trigger, if you're at all familiar with them. They the head producer, I think, did a lot of work on Gurren Lagann, which was a really cool series, and then their kind of breakout production was Kill La Kill, which is
everybody knows.
Wild. Yeah, it really made a statement and has an unbelievably unmistakable visual style that they've adapted and honed and brought forward, and now they're going to be able to lend those skills and their own really flashy and unique animation style to Cyberpunk as a setting.
Yeah, I don't think we've seen Cyberpunk quite represented the way that it looks like it's going to be in this show. There's definitely, they've got more, the action, of course, is on a next level anime for action, but also just the overall design of the show, the way that they chose to shade things, the way that they chose to have the contrasts of neon versus, darkness and that sort of thing. It looks like they really hit the cyberpunk look in a way that we haven't seen before.
Not to mention the fact that all of their setting work and their visuals are not like inspired by the game Cyberpunk 2077. It's literally frame for frame. You can make exact comparisons and overlay these scenes and be like, I can stand there in the game. And honestly, to be able to do such a transfer of that information, such a handshaking between two big companies like CD Projekt Red and Studio Trigger, that in its own is an accomplishment, A lot of people have been able to claim that their work is inspired by a setting, but very few are able to go, it's literally exactly what you can see within the core of the setting,
Mm-hmm. And that's the Cyberpunk video game from CD Projekt Red.
Yes.
And the way that it looks, they definitely share a lot of the same look. The sort of storytelling setting is the same setting, right? It takes place...
It is. I believe it's a year prior to the events of 2077.
Okay.
And following this character, David, who looks very much so like
the main character of Cyberpunk 2077.
Yeah, your V in 2077, which is an interesting choice, but it's probably just to say, to people who are more so looking at the anime, if you want to experience a story like this, go grab the game,
Cyberpunk lends itself well to anime, I feel, in that its power levels can be
kind of wild. Yeah,
exactly.
Really over the top. Yeah.
Some crazy super hacker could control everybody in the city if they manage to get the right key code or whatever.
People with these enhancements and these physical attributes are able to move at
blurringly
fast speeds, and jump 20 feet and boost themselves mid-air, and, all sorts of just wild combat circumstance can be shown. And Studio Trigger never disappoints with that, though Cyberpunk initially itself, 2077, disappointed,
Oh, yeah.
It definitely flopped hard in that it didn't have a current-gen release or a next-gen release at the time. It only had upscaled versions of the prior-gen release, which was a buggy mess, could hardly run for more than an hour at a time without crashing, and was graphically a downgrade from their prior show-offs of the game, and was, of course, missing a lot of features and stuff. Now, after more than a year of updates, probably closer to 2 years, maybe even 2 years, the game is much closer to the state that it should have released in, I believe, though not on prior gen, sadly, still. And yet this anime speaks to their willingness to clutch on to that IP. They want this to still be a big deal in people's minds in a recognizable setting, so that when they release 2078, it'll be a big deal.
Right.
You know?
Well, Cyberpunk 2077, you told me yesterday, they're only ever going to get one
expansion.
Yeah, and then they're moving on from it. And yet at the same time, they're producing this new anime show. It does make you wonder, okay, then there is a bigger picture, but what is it? Like, if they've already identified that they're kind of end-of-lifing the video game already, and it never really came up to where it was expected to come up to.
Yeah, not quite.
In other words, it was going to be a big cultural smash. I mean, I know in our own shop, we stocked a lot of Cyberpunk 2077 related stuff, swag and items. And we did find, there were buyers that came in looking for that stuff and they got it, but we kind of expected it to be
blowout.
Yeah, a bigger thing. Like, these things are going to be exciting because this game is going to be such a huge, big deal. And, it was more a hidden secret that certain people were doing.
It was anticipated to be utterly unbelievable, and 11 out of 10. It released at like a 5 out of 10, depending on what system you played it on, maybe a little better. Currently, it's sitting at, I would say, a 9 out of 10, delivering on a lot of what you would like to see, but still a sad circumstance that it took so long to get here. But in that, and this tie-in anime, and promises of a continuous investment in this IP, I think that we'll see Cyberpunk continuing to grip fans in the future, and it will deliver eventually, I believe, on its promises, which would be really freaking cool to see. In the war for fantasy viewership, House of the Dragon is in fact coming out on top, in that Amazon has about 4 times as many subscribers as HBO does, but HBO is getting much closer ranks of viewership between House of the Dragon and Rings of Power. An interesting thing to see, for sure. I wonder if that speaks to quality. I can't attest to it. I haven't watched Rings of Power. No. I'm just kind of putting it on the shelf for now.
We're too enamored with House of Dragon.
Which has been, it was a good episode last night. I think it was tasteful for them to choose to direct that by a woman.
Indeed.
Direct that, you mean
that particular episode,
It had a lot of intimate scenes.
Yes.
As we could say.
Yes. The first intimate scenes we've seen out of this season.
Which Game of Thrones is known for. It explores all sorts of mature topics, sometimes in graphic detail. Less so in this episode, which was based on angles and conscious decisions of cinematography that I think worked out really well and served the episode really well.
And it wasn't meaningless either. It all had a purpose to it.
Yeah, it wasn't just a softcore. Actually, we're telling a story there for sure, which, generally Game of Thrones shoots for, but sometimes they also go for some shock value. If you were watching The Boys, you wouldn't expect it to be quite so, intimate. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I think there's a lot to consider from that episode. Episode 4 was a new angle for that. Yeah, right? The sea snake.
I mean, the only part of Game of Thrones that I've been actually watching is I come in and watch the sort of making of part that they run at the end after the credits.
True. Yeah, I think that the particular making of that, 10-minute little segment post-credits of this episode was kind of important to watch because it exposed so much of their thought process behind putting together episode 4 and what it meant to them and how to manage all these intimate scenes. They have intimacy trainers on set, or guides, gurus.
Intimacy gurus.
Yeah,
To guide the actors. And...
to really, I get it, like to sell the scene and to make sure that nothing is crossing any lines or whatever.
That makes sense.
That must be an interesting job.
Yeah.
You know, I bet you do really well on dating sites and stuff. You're like, I literally teach actors how to bang on screen. I know what makes for a romantic setting.
Wow. Probably true. It is fun to have those interviews with the actors.
The podcast almost always has like a 10 to 15 minute interview. They did Sir Kristen Cole's actor.
Really?
Yeah. Fabio, I believe his name is.
He looks like a Fabio.
He looks like a Fabio, doesn't he? Yeah. But he is doing an excellent job, I would say, with that role, and seems like a very kind young man.
Cool.
As they all do. All these people are incredibly well-spoken and thought out and truly into their roles. Though, the big difference between him and the other actors was that, like, the woman who plays Rhaenyra, or the woman who plays Lady Allison, both of them were like, when we went to do the casting and stuff, they handed us scripts, and we did it, and, you know, for weeks we were like, what was that for? And then they would get the call, and they'd be like, you're in on the new Game of Thrones and stuff, and they would be freaking out. Or they would learn from someone that they were probably casting for Game of Thrones, and they would pretty much throw in the towel and be like, well, I guess that was a waste of time, because I'm never getting it. The dude who played Sir Christian Cole did his lines at like 5 minutes in. He was like, I'm casting for Game of Thrones right now.
Wow.
He was like, I'm going to be in Game of Thrones. It's an interesting juxtaposition that he had some forewarning and was able to
That would have been
recognize.
helpful.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I think it's a well-cast show, though, for sure.
Interesting.
So in other TV this week, Josh Gates, intrepid adventurer Josh Gates.
The real-life Indiana Jones.
Has Expedition Unknown and formerly Destination Truth and all of that.
Expedition X, and
Yeah. He started a new series called, I think it's Adventures of the Explorers Club or something, because he's a member of the famed Explorers Club that, like, Edmund Hillary, the original guy that climbed Mount Everest, was a member of. And so the idea of this new series is he's going to narrate essentially recreations of the stories behind some of the best explorers from the Explorers Clubs and what they did and all of that. I'm not as big a fan where he narrates recreations.
Yeah, live action reenactments can range from all right to really crappy pretty easily.
I think they do a really, really good job. It's really good stuff. I guess it's probably pretty first rate recreation stuff, and he goes and talks to various people. But it's a show where he's mostly just a talking guy, and we kind of fell in love with him for, he gets out there and does it. Even if he doesn't find the treasure, he goes and looks for it.
Yeah.
And now he kind of hangs out in New York and
don't you think he's earned it? He's caught every chupacabra and Jersey Devil.
He's true. He's lassoed 4 Sasquatches in his time.
He's captured Aztec ghosts.
Spoken with ghosts and aliens. Yeah, the dude is
found treasure from Blackbeard.
Nazi.
No, he's attempted all of those things, but in most cases he hasn't done any of them.
What? I thought he was the real deal.
Personally, I think he should stay out there looking. Like,
right. You should be on the field. No, right now
he's not done yet. You feel?
No, and and I guess I enjoy his travelogues. And he's the guy is remarkable. Like, you never seen anybody deliver as good a monologue, while riding a dirt bike.
Right.
It's amazing, really, that he can put this stuff together, and he's riding through, he's riding a tuk-tuk through, I don't know, wherever the heck they ride tuk-tuks.
New
Delhi.
And delivering a monologue, and that's a lot of fun and awesome.
Yeah.
Or trying street market food or
Yeah,
all that
yeah,
sort of thing.
eating spiders or whatever.
Yeah, always interesting little tidbits about the local culture he's experiencing.
Yeah, there's less of that in these shows.
That's unfortunate. Is it the Donner Party or the Dahmer Party?
Donner.
The Donners.
Yeah, the Dahmer party.
The Dahmer Party.
Similar, but different.
Yes, I think so. Yeah. The Donner Party. I need to see exactly 0 more live-action recreations of that event, given it's been done 12,000 times. I really hope that he's not like, oh, I got a season 1 classic for you adventurers.
He already did it.
He already did it?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
But the difference in that one was he did that in Expedition Unknown.
Oh, come on, Josh.
And he went out and did some of the traveling on the same places the Donner Party went.
He's already cashed in on that one.
We should do a ranking of like the best live action Donner Party recreations.
He'll probably tell the story as a recreation, but and that was actually the season finale of Expedition Unknown was doing the Donner Party.
We already know everything that happened to those people. Mostly.
More or less. I learned some new stuff.
Did you?
Yeah, I did. I didn't realize, for instance, that they built cabins and all of that sort of stuff. They were capable of setting up to be there for a long period of time. They just didn't have the
meat.
Well, the fact that there was like 30 feet of snow.
Yeah.
Damn.
Like 30 feet of snow. Like that
would suck.
Yeah, that's an unusual amount of snow to deal with. But anyways, so he's got this new series. It's interesting. It's not as good as his other stuff, in my opinion, but I'm sure I'll watch it because
he always makes for some good TV.
Yeah, he's a good narrator. He writes a good story and he puts it together well.
Battlebots.
Yeah, Battlebots finished up its
mini tournament. Yeah,
its little tournament. It was quite amazing. I'm not going to give away any spoilers for anybody who's watching. I was disappointed with the final championship matches.
What's new?
Yeah. And who won? I was hoping it would be a bot with new technology.
Yeah.
And it wasn't really a bot with new technology. It was a bot with older technology that we've seen win before. We know their championship quality.
Mm-hmm.
They did it again. It was incredibly destructive. Really, high damage points. A pretty good amount of action, I suppose. But I wanted to see something new happen.
A lot of those bots. Yeah, I mean, those matches in particular throughout this kind of mini tourney that they set up were explosive. Like, some of them really showed off some degrees of power and momentum that we haven't seen maybe in a season or two,
Yeah.
Some of the bots were thrown like 17 feet into the air, Crazy stuff. And these are 300-pound hunks of metal, so when they get thrown like that, you can only imagine how hard they just got hit. And there was a lot of that throughout this, but of course, when it came down to the line, just like, the last 2 or maybe 3 seasons or so, even of the mainline tournament, a bot well-proven and certainly not undeserving, but not exactly the ones you want to see, comes in, swoops in, takes the win. It's like,
we've seen this design works, we get it.
Never quite what I'm looking for the final victor here.
Yeah, well, and the problem is, it's like, Bite Force was such a strong competitor, for years and years, taking the giant nut, winning everything. And then you see a new bot come out, which is effectively someone else's design of the same darn thing.
Yeah.
The same sort of vertical spinning weapon, what I call a pizza box, a low profile bot behind it, really basically a pizza box that pushes around a vertical spinning weapon.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing against these bots. I mean, they're amazing and they're super well built and they're made, to last, but they're just kind of uninteresting.
Yeah. It's about as standard as you could get.
Yeah, and it's like they followed in a previously designed bot's footsteps, recreated it, and did it some more. So I was hoping to see, something with some new thinking, or at least a new design. Like Hypershock, I wanted to see it win.
Mm-hmm.
It's so fast, and it literally drifts around the bot. It keeps its weapon pointed by essentially drifting because it's so super powered in its drivetrain. Unfortunately, it got knocked out, but it did remarkably well. It had amazing battles. Glitch, I wanted to see win because it had those universal direction wheels.
Yeah, it's got some cool technology.
Yeah, it had a different design. I was hoping it got knocked out. And a bot that we've seen win won again. It was awesome, but it'd be cool to see something new win.
Yeah, those matches do speak to an excellent upcoming main season, though. So I'm hoping that they get some matches in those that really continue this streak of high action and a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the production of BattleBots as a show is top notch. I mean, everything they do now is so good. The way that they cut it together, the camera angles, the camera capabilities overall to make sure that we get a good view of these things. Yep. I'm sure we get a much better view than the people that are operating the bots do.
Mm-hmm. No doubt, yeah.
So I bet they get to go watch those fights and see them in a whole different light, and they probably think it's incredibly awesome.
And some of the drivers and stuff are characters of their own, which is a lot of fun for sure. But occasionally they truly are more nerd than interviewee.
Yeah,
and that does them no favors. So then, what do you think happened in that match? Well, we hit them, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, yes. Anything more to say? We won. Yeah. All right, congratulations. Yeah. It's not the fault of anyone.
They got the energy of the match.
Yeah, that's part of it as well. And it is cool to see, for sure. The post-match interviews are cool.
Not everybody's a Kenny Florian.
Right, exactly.
Who can get the shit beaten out of them and then just give a perfect recap of what just happened.
So September 24th brings a special event to our area.
Yeah, it's like a whole little holiday.
The Sasquatch Calling Festival. I think this is the third annual
or something like that.
Yeah. Prior to that, it was kind of tied into our village's winter festival, but now it's its own thing, the Sasquatch Calling Festival. And I guess, there's a reason for that. We didn't just, the area didn't just spontaneously say, hey, what if we grab a cryptid and make it our own?
The Squatch has been here for thousands of years.
Well, for apparently a long time. And interestingly, it is in the police logs of Whitehall, where our shop is. Apparently, the police witnessed the Sasquatch. And so it went into the official logs. It went on to become a protected species.
It's illegal to hunt here in Whitehall, New York.
Yeah, you can't hunt. I think in the whole town.
In the town? Oh, right.
Yeah, not just the village, but in the whole town, which is a bigger outlying area.
It's also our town mascot.
Is it our town mascot?
Or it's our town animal. I'm sorry.
It's our town. It's our town animal, and why wouldn't it be?
In spite of all my attempts to bag one,
we haven't caught it yet.
The law has truly forbidden me.
You can't shoot it.
You can't shoot them.
No. Our net guns don't fire far enough. It gets away.
Yeah, people really have attached to this particular character. He's known to be a few different places in America. Some claim that the Northwest is more his home, but here we have people seeing him left and right.
I was say this is a real hotspot, known globally.
It is.
Right. And so and interestingly, our attachment to it is this calling festival where people come from around the region, potentially around the world, to attempt their own unique call. They've identified what they believe is a call for the Sasquatch.
This has been covered by ESPN, by the way.
Yeah.
They like seeing people bellow out these Sasquatch calls.
There's all different styles. It's a style thing.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what one works. It'll be interesting when one finally works.
It's unfortunate that none of them ever learned how to speak Sasquatch. All the Squatches out on the mountain ridges listening in, they're like, banana, television, cucumber? Like,
What are you trying to say?
what are you saying?
I'm more of a proponent of like the theory of like smacking big logs against trees to make a hollow, bonking sound. But they didn't let me in last year to do that. It's not only for the calling. There's also the camaraderie of fellow enthusiasts and true believers.
Yes. Cryptid hunters and
Get
crazies.
together with other folks. I mean, I think, I guess I qualify as like, I want to believe, man, wouldn't it be cool if there were cryptids? And nearby we also have Champ, the lake monster in Lake Champlain.
We have a Loch Ness Monster analog that's pretty local to us as well. And they have often been set up to battle it out, but they've just never been able to get their schedule right at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Migration patterns don't line up.
No.
So the sort of cryptid thing, I mean, there's a lot of people have booths. They've got a lot of hand-carved crafts and different sorts of.
We're gonna have some cool
Crafty
stuff in
items.
this year around.
Yeah.
We've got some merch related to it. Yeah, I mean, it stuff befitting our store, anyways. We're the only, I don't know how much our shop had to do with this thing coming about.
It's freaky influence, I think.
Yeah, right.
Made a big difference.
Right. The fact that there's something freaky here has grown outward, perhaps. Now, one of the things that I was wondering was if this is the hometown of Homelander from The Boys, shouldn't we have like a Homelander homecoming day? Shouldn't be.
I think so. Honestly, we're at the birthplace of a lot of things.
Yes.
Homelander.
The Navy.
Might as
Right.
well. I was gonna say the U.S. Navy.
Sasquatch.
Our relatively landlocked village is the birthplace of the U.S. Navy.
Hey man, those naval battles took place on lakes around here.
Right.
Those were the important ones.
Yeah.
Right, but a Homelander, canonically,
Canonically
Boys.
from Whitehall, Washington County.
yeah,
It's the only one that I know of.
Right.
It's right here.
that's this Whitehall. So yeah, shouldn't we have a Homelander homecoming or something?
Well, we need a banner.
So let us know if you're interested. Maybe give us some ideas for what kind of things we could tie into the event. We know the sorts of things Homelander does.
So why wouldn't we want him here?
Based on the inclinations of the local population, he'd probably be a hit. So drop him on down. Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I think that he should come and give his best Sasquatch bellowing.
Do the Sasquatch call.
He should.
He could join in.
Yeah.
He'd
Yeah.
catch a Sasquatch in a few seconds flat.
I don't know. Sasquatch has mysterious powers.
Well, that's when Sasquatch and Champ team up to fight Homelander in the U.S. Navy.
I would love
This is a comic book that needs to
that.
come
Would
out.
be freaking awesome. This needs to happen now. I bet you Champ probably has Hyper Beam as a power. On
It's a Pokemon.
Yeah,
They're
it's
both
a
Pokemon.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
They can go ahead and do that. I'm making the merch.
You make the merch.
You should make the merch of Homelander standing on the USS Saratoga. On the opposite end, Sasquatch atop Champ.
Yep. Oh, that would be sweet.
Boom. Then you would have Whitehall wrapped up in one little
whole
bundle.
Broad spectrum of all its relevancy to the rest of the world.
Yes, that's what we can claim to fame. If you had the Freakopolis logo on there too, here's all
Chef's
the reasons
kiss.
to visit Whitehall. Here is our tourist attractions.
And that about does it for this one. If you like hanging with us, please subscribe through your favorite podcast directory. Join our Discord and check out our shop, the Freakopolis Geekery. See you next time.